Hi listeners, welcome to my channel. While the Scorpio full moon we just experienced, which was very intense, along with the Pluto retrograde, would continue to bring up things up from below the surface that need to be handled, that need to be faced and healed from. We would now move forward in May and start working on the future. May would have not just a new moon in Taurus, which will give us a fresh boost of self-worth and net worth so we can start building our new life on firm grounds. May would also hold 3 fated encounters on 10th, 17th and 31st of May, which will bring more clarity to our life path, which would unfold further with the eclipses we are about to experience end of May and June. We will dig deeper into all of this today, and then in part 2 delve deeper into May themes by sign. Happy birthday to our beautiful Taurus listeners, and hope you're enjoying the last month of spring season or autumn season if you're listening from Southern Hemisphere. My name is Charu and I'm your host on this journey. So let's dig in and look at what the month of May brings for all of us. Right at the onset of May, on May Day, we have Sun and Uranus making a surprising contact. At the very degree, we would have solar eclipse, which is a fated new start, in April of 2022. Let's unpack that. The shifts that we are bringing this month, especially in the first half of the month, would have structural impacts on what we are going to grow in 2022, especially in our financial houses and our house of physical health, physical body. We are taking those steps of making a change in our life, which underlines financial independence, shift in our values, shift in our taste, shift in how we create value from our work. Even a shift in what we perceive to be stable, what we perceive to be gainful and beautiful. The definition of abundance is being changed. And as our value systems shift, so does our external reality. In the same vein, definition of love, definition of creativity is being progressively changed. This is happening as we change what we choose. The way we make our choices in our life is shifting. The things we did before, which seemed to form the structural part of our world, now don't seem to be in line with our new values. Uranus is a trigger, and right at the onset of this month, this trigger is being set off. It shows us a stale situation which needs changing, and it has been trying to do so since 2019. But now it just doesn't show you what needs changing, it shows you a way forward as well. Because now it's entered its second decan. The second decan, which is 10 to 20 degree of Taurus, is a Virgo dominant decan, where we do something which is useful and practical to make those changes happen that the first decan or the last 2 years of Uranus and Taurus has instigated within us. It also comes with more flexibility versus the initial rigidity that we have experienced to change. There is an inner separation from our old and authentic identity, and sometimes even with a stable father figure, as a new discovery of our unique identity begins. The weeds are still being eliminated one by one, initiated by the Scorpio full moon we just had. And a new self is now being born. As Rudia said, as the roots, so the flowers. we are ready for a new bloom. And we would attach a new identity, a new ego to this new bloom. That is the human nature. We would nurture it, water it, love it, and expect the world from it. We are entering a period which is called the period of cultivation. We must use May for nurturing and cultivation of our new roots, which would culminate in the full flower supermoon on 26th of May, which is the lunar eclipse this month, the closest full moon of this year. Remember that the part of our chart that we are cultivating, that we are enriching, nurturing in the month of May, is where we make home. We tend to live longer in this part of our life. So whatever new source of income, new asset, new ego, new personal resources or investments or hard choices you are cultivating, remember that you are laying down the grounds for the long haul here. It would feel that it's not going at the speed you would want it to, especially the financial aspect of it. Words would be flowing fast, ideas and even documents may be going, but that solid growth, the abundance, the ground on which you could stand and say, yes, this works, it might look slow. That's the topic of 2022 when North Node will come into Taurus. And with that, the financial aspect will get accelerated. Do not forget, Mother's Day on 9th of May, Venus would be squaring Jupiter that day, right a day before that, at the last degree of Taurus. Some people are about to go overboard in their purchases around 9th of May. So just be mindful of that. And that is also the last day that Venus will be in Taurus, and it will be moving to Gemini after that. Also, Jupiter, the planet of expansion, will be moving into its own sign, Pisces, on 13th of May. This is a very brief transit of Jupiter through Pisces, which will only last till 28th of July, as it is just showing a preview of 2022 to us. It will fully settle down in Pisces for 2022, starting from 28th of December at the end of this year. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, and when it is in its own sign, it gives very positive results. This is a preview period. We will see growth in faith, growth in spirituality, in compassion, in idealism. We last had this transit in 2010. So you could review what grew for you, what shifted for you, starting from January of 2010, when Jupiter last just entered Pisces. This preview would also show us the growth we are about to fully experience in 2022. And it will show some over-the-board optimism, or even misleading or inflated expectations on certain ventures. This was something that I spoke in the February videos and podcast as well, because we are going to see a new cycle in 2022 of optimism, of faith, which is triggered by the Jupiter-Neptune cycle. We will see ourselves being more open to choices when Jupiter comes into Pisces starting from 13th of May. Especially the expansionary choices would be more, and they would be something that we'll be more open to. But all choices are not lucrative. This would be a good season, a good month to lay down some good ground rules on which of them you would like to go for. But overall, this is a very expansionary transit that is getting triggered. We'll talk of it in more detail separately as well. Jupiter works very well in Pisces, so expansion and growth is greatly supported. This transit especially sprouts a lot of creative geniuses, But Jupiter in Pisces along with Neptune in 2022 will also lead to a lot of inflated expectation, and some of that inflated expectations have been rooted in February. I spoke about it in the February video as well. So we would need to filter out the multiple choices and tone down our expectations to some extent to come to a more realistic outlook as well moving forward, especially after 14th of May. When Mercury goes into the shadow period, we need to start re-looking at things, because there might be certain thought processes, certain ideas which are maybe inflated at this stage in terms of their expectations. Contracts, agreements, discussions which are agreed past 14th of May might need revision, as Mercury will go through retrograde period after 29th of May to 22nd of June. Mercury goes retrograde on 29th of May to 22nd of June. When Mercury goes retrograde, we have to revise things, especially in Gemini. There's a revision of certain documentation, written agreements, discussions that have happened during the shadow period. So from 14th of May to 29th of May, if we are agreeing to some things, contracts, discussions, we might need to go back on them and rewrite those, or go through the reality of some of those fated encounters which will happen during this period between 14th of May to 29th of May would need a bit more time to be fully understood in terms of messaging of them, which may not be clear at the onset. We might in early June take a bit of step back to make sense of what's happening in the second half of May. This would also be supported by Saturn going retrograde. There might be structural changes which might be required in our plans, such as putting certain rules, regulations, boundaries to make what we are initiating more realistic and abundant and long lasting. And that happens with Saturn retrograde between 23rd of May to 10th of October. Between 23rd of May to 10th of October, there will be structural reworks which would be needed in our vision and plans to make them more resilient. It doesn't stop the work, but it does mean that the rule book needs some rewriting. It would also be the time to evaluate where healthy boundaries need to be built with friends, with our network, and our sibling. Saturn in Aquarius going retrograde also points to investments. There might be certain investment ideas or the way we have been investing in our future that needs to be re-evaluated. Let's talk of the fated encounters this month. There are 3 dates on which I expect certain fated encounters for us: 10th of May, 17th of May, 31st of May. Each of these fated encounters, they come with Saturn trine. So we'll be given the discipline to make the structural changes to bring about full value from these fated encounters, which could be a communication with somebody, discussion with somebody, getting engaged with somebody. It's the pie in the sky thoughts, ideas, and discussions we had in April and March, which are now being given substance. And it happens through certain fated communication this month. These dates and a day before or after give us great opportunities to have a productive talk with authorities, get a progress on approvals, or get a guidance from an elder or experienced person. I'll repeat the date: 10th of May, 17th of May, and 31st of May. These are also happening at the degree of rising to the occasion. These are inexperienced grounds for us of potential. After 10th of May and especially 17th of May, you would truly feel that you want to be free from the past. You will feel free from the past. You will feel more flexible to go into the future. In some ways, the past has been washed out. And with that, you're ready to move into this uncharted territory we are about to chart together. Staying flexible, staying open, staying present to the options that you're being presented to would be very important on these dates. Because it would require us to leave our old belief of what our life should be behind. It will require us to release our beliefs and replace them with the new current information we are being presented with. All of these fated encounters come in close contact with one of the greatest stars in the sky, one of the four royal stars of Persia, the archangel star, the watcher of the east called Aldebaran. The contact with the star has promise of success or happiness, but it comes with a test. Each of the four royal stars of Persia, they come with a test. For this specific star, the test is of integrity. We would be essentially forced with an issue of integrity, and we would have to rise to the occasion in some way. A very famous example of the star and its action is Edward VIII, who fell in love with the divorcee, and even though the most logical, lucrative, or traditional choice would have been to compromise his integrity, he chose the high road. He abdicated the throne to marry the woman he truly loved. We would have to live by the morals, even though the temptation to skip them would be very high. Galileo Galilei rebelled against the church, announcing that Earth was the one that was orbiting the sun, at the risk of being arrested and imprisoned. We'll have to stand by our convictions here. We would have to rise up to our own truth as we encounter this dilemma, which will happen with these encounters. Mars met the star on 26th of March, with the influence across end of March. So maybe you could look towards end of March. Did you have to take a high road on a subject which was tempting? Were you prompted in some ways to choose something that was not in line with who you are? Did you have to make a tough choice at that time? Were you prompted in some ways to change your course, to take the road less traveled, to be honest with yourself, to be morally, spiritually more in line with who you are? I have my natal Venus on Aldebaran, so I was definitely prompted with that. If that was the case with you, you would see more progress, more information of that choice that you made. And Mars was also laying down the groundwork of what's essentially these fated encounters are all about. So you might have worked on this, not knowing where this would go in future. North node contacts make things happen that take normally many years to happen. So when the contact of North Node is made with personal planets, which is happening on 10th, 17th and 31st of May, those are dates with destiny essentially. Those are the dates when some seemingly innocuous discussion leads us to the path we need to go to. But our communication especially would be very amped up on these dates. Because North Node is in Gemini, the sign of communication. And as we go towards the month end, I do believe activation of the star, which has Mars-like qualities, could see even our world leaders encounter a moral dilemma. When Mars met North Node in Gemini last in March, Biden had called Putin the murderer, and of course went on giving by being stuck in the Suez Canal. It was also the deadliest days in Myanmar protest. People were protesting for what they knew was their truth. This all coupled with the eclipses and Saturn going retrograde on 23rd of May, along with Saturn Square Uranus becoming exact on 14th of June, makes for a very, very intense month end and an intense summer. Communication would be charged up towards the month end. Transportation would be a little bit haywire. People will try to speed ahead, would want to go 100 miles a minute, both with their hands, with their voice and their mind. So be careful of both driving as well as your words. Use your words wisely, and it's a great opportunity to make once in 19 years progress on written, creative, verbal, communication, commercial projects and skills. Each of these encounters amps up our communication, and we can use those words to create our destiny. In North Node in Gemini, words and mind creates destiny. And with the eclipse that's coming towards the month end, all of those energies will be very amped up. We also have the 26th of May eclipse with a south node. And because of its history, I mentioned it in the discourse video as well, I personally do not recommend to travel or be engaged in any religious group activities, which can lead to crowds. You always have to use your own judgment and what's best for you, but astrologically, this eclipse comes with a travel or religious incident. And this time, the coverage area of this eclipse is much, much broader than the past eclipse. As Saturn would go retrograde on 23rd of May, Saturn Square Uranus will happen on 14th of June. The rebellious and the breaking through and breaking the regulations aspect of our psyche will be enhanced. It's the theme of 2021. I spoke about it in the Saturn Square Uranus video as well. I'll leave a link for you in the description so you can take a look at it, because we'll start feeling that very strongly in the second half of this month. It is active even now, but it will come within 1 degree of orb towards the end of the month, and Saturn will be standing still, being very, very strong in this aspect. It's like we want to break through, we want to move forward, we are laying down all these seeds for the new growth, but there is a restriction, there is a conflict, there is a roadblock that comes in between. There could be actual regulations on innovation, especially on tech, that might be coming upon in June with the aspect going exact. I spoke about it not just in the vein of global events, but also for individual sign, because this is the key theme of 2021. This is our key breakthrough for 2021. So in the 2021 video, I went through in great detail for each of the signs. I'll put down the link below so you can take a look at it for your sign. It's important to look at it. It will impact you all the way till end of this year, but it will become very strong towards end of May and in June. So it's imperative to look at it, but know that the month end would be a little bit more intense because of this aspect. More on eclipses in the next video. I hope you enjoy this month. Make the most, especially of the first half of this month, especially before 14th of May, before Mercury moves into its retrograde shadow period. Mercury will only go retrograde on 29th of May, so it doesn't mean that the whole month we cannot progress on our communication projects. Quite the contrary. Just that after 14th of May, we need to be a little bit careful about what we are signing, what we are agreeing to, what we are communicating. It will require a little bit more rework possibly down the line, because there might be certain information that may not avail itself to us before the Mercury retrograde. So it's better to delay signing off if possible of documents which are coming after 14th of May. So good luck for May, and I'll see you in the next video now. Thank you.